Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chairman Gensler, thank you and welcome back to this committee. I know each time we get to have a lot of questions on this. Last time we spoke, I addressed swing pricing and hard close proposals with you. I also want to reemphasize here the devastating impact that's had on many of my hardworking constituents, from their retirement plans, their 401ks, my nurses with 457 plans, my teachers with 403B plans. I think you get the gist of where we're going with this. As you are well aware, after this morning's rule, I believe it needs to be withdrawn, and I look forward to your team's response to both Chairwoman Wagner and Ranking Member Sherman on the letter that we signed on to and are still awaiting to hear back on. Look, I want to talk specifically here about the ag and small business communities that I represent. The extra regulations that the SEC is potentially proposing in this regulation under the guise of consumer protection is going to add $6 billion in increased annualized costs to the industry, an additional 6 million compliance hours, many of these being small family farms and medium Main Street businesses. I hope you appreciate this has a tremendous impact on my constituents back home. Along with 4 other members of the Ag Committee on which I serve, we have signed a letter here moving forward a conversation, which brings me to my question on the February 15th proposal rulemaking on safeguarding client assets aimed at reshaping custody assets. As you know, we have worked hard in your former role with CFTC on how this can be successful. But dozens of trade groups have signed up and identified that this rulemaking would represent trillions of dollars of assets that our constituents back home face. Both of these letters, Mr. Chair, highlight significant errors with the proposed rulemaking, and I'm going to begin this conversation by asking you to consider withdrawing it until these things get fixed. Your definitions of custody and asset would expand so greatly they would encompass derivatives and future markets that have been overseen by the CFTC, your former organization, for decades. So with these bipartisan letters specifically, I believe that they would upend our markets overseen by the CFTC, eroding their essential risk management functions and putting our nation's farmers and producers at risk. Now, Chairman Gensler, in your 432-page proposal on economic analysis, do you know how many times agriculture was mentioned as part of this review?
I don't recall, but I suspect you're going to let me know.
Would it surprise you to know not once? In fact, it was only mentioned as a subcategory within a footnote. Clearly, this is concerning, particularly for my farming constituents, but for entire economies built around this, something the CFTC has been doing for decades. So, Chair Gensler, earlier you answered Representative Lucas' question. Has there been any coordination with the SEC and the CFTC on this issue?
Yes, we've been in dialogue both prior to the proposal and subsequent to the proposal, and I think that...
Can I get some specifics on that? When did you send a request over to the CFTC for this coordination? The day of before the proposal? A week before the proposal? After the proposal was already out?
Representative, it usually just is staff-to-staff dialogue. So it's,
Great. I look forward for your staff providing me the date in which you actually asked for this information from the CFTC. Did the CFTC provide you with any recommendations on your rulemaking?
we engage with multiple federal regulators on this role, and we'll continue to do that because we benefit from that feedback.
I'm very happy to hear that, Mr. Chair. I'd like to see that being transparently provided to this committee then. Did you read these comments, and were they incorporated into your final proposal?
Sir, we haven't finalized a proposal yet.
Did you incorporate any of CFTC's
We haven't finalized
recommendations?
an adoption yet.
Mr. Chair, did you incorporate any of the CFTC's proposals into your recommendation?
We have put out to public comment to get feedback, and we get feedback, and it's benefiting this, and I think that we can...
So I haven't heard anything about the CFTC on this. You're putting it out to the public, which brings me to my next question. It's my understanding that you recently reopened the comment period without re-proposing the rule. Specifically, what value does this add to the ag community and my constituents for their grave concerns if you're reopening it, but you're not listening to the CFTC, the ag committees, or even what's happening on a bipartisan level within this committee?
We benefit by reopening. I think we reopened this because we had another rule that may intersect with this, the discussion we've had a lot here today, and so we reopened it formally to get further comment.
It might suggest to some that you didn't get the answers you wanted, and so you reopened it to others. So let me end with this. I urge you to withdraw this rule, as my bipartisan and bicameral elements have argued the same. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield the remainder of my time.